I'm Holly Dietz, and these are my weird ideas. It's May 2024, and I have been laid off. Oh, no, not recently. It was January. What a trope, right? So I, like many other people in the tech industry, was laid off in January. So why are you just now hearing about it? This is gonna sound weird, even from me, but it's because I was 100% prepared for it. How is that possible? Well, folks, when the company had its first layoff in 2023, my partner and I decided to be proactive. We made a plan, and that's what this episode is about. It's not about the layoff. This is about planning for the absolute eventuality that at some point in your life, you will find yourself in a bind. How can we choose to approach that in a way that does not involve desperation? As you know, I'm not a financial expert. I have a history degree from a sports ball university, which qualifies me to do basically nothing. I'm child free. I have an amazing and supportive partner who I can count on. I realize that this is not how everyone lives. The point of this episode is to share my experience, such as it is. That's it. It's not a method I'm trying to get you to subscribe to. I'm simply a control freak who loves to plan things and who loves to tell about the things I've planned. The next part goes without saying, so of course I will say it. Step one is having planned for this before you start planning for this. Just like a million other people on the internet saying you must have an emergency fund, well, I'm saying you must. I don't know how else to tell you this. It's not sexy, and in some cases, it's not fun, especially for folks who are barely making ends meet to begin with. But you must have a safety net in order to begin step two. So if you need to start saving $1 a week to get your emergency fund started, do it. Okay, we are assuming that you have an emergency fund of some sort and that it can keep you afloat for X amount of time. That is step one. So let's go back to January 2023 with the first layoff. My partner and I then began step two. We went through our entire budget and realized with absolute horror that we were spending as much money on alcohol every month as some people spend on a car payment. So we went sober. Not because we think drinking is wrong, we absolutely don't. But it seemed like an easy thing to take out of our budget. So we did. We got rid of some of our streaming services and entertainment like things just to see if they were contributing positively to our quality of life. They were not. So we have left them behind. We started reading a lot more. That has been fantastic. I want to do a whole other episode about that. Basically, the goal of this part of the exercise is to eliminate things that are not contributing to your quality of life. At this point, you're planning for step three, so it's less about the expenses themselves and more about the hard reality of where you put your money every month and what things in your budget don't net you a positive life outcome. This gets us to step three. And of course, step three has three tiers. Tier one is a list of all the things that you absolutely need in order to stay alive and that you can reliably budget for: shelter, utilities, vehicle payments, insurance, medications, all of that. Don't include food here and definitely not clothing unless there are items of clothing that you need for survival. And that may well be the case for you. That's tier one, the absolute non negotiables that won't change no matter what your circumstances are. So now we move to tier two. This is where you gather data on what you consume regularly and you decide how many of those things you can stockpile. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the YouTube channel of Vic Berger and his hilarious take on Jim Baker and his apocalypse food buckets. I am not talking about that kind of stockpiling. What I mean is Imagine you're without an income and you haven't planned. What's one of the first things that you start rationalizing about? Food. It's very easy to tell yourself that cheap food is just as filling as nutritious food when you're struggling. But if you don't have to go down that road, you will feel better. Good nutrition, unfortunately, in the US, has become something of a luxury. Plan ahead. I won't bore you with all of the details of the way we eat, but we do eat mostly beans, greens, and grains. And of course, because of who we are, we eat expensive beans, greens, and grains. This is not a flex. I'll tell you why we pay so much for our food. We know that just like the fashion industry, the agricultural landscape as it currently exists relies upon slave labor. We make an effort to not contribute to that. We live in a location of the US where there are quite a few farms, and that's helpful. But what we can't get locally, we get from people we trust to be doing things above board, and that costs a lot of money. So when we started planning, we started buying our grains in bulk, enough to keep us going for at least 6 months. Same for our pasta and our Rancho Gordo beans. Some of this we did over time, and some of it we just bit the bullet and placed big orders, and we adjusted that month's budget accordingly. The key is you do this while you still have your normal income. Okay, this gets us to tier three. This is harder than you would think. This is where you say to yourself, if I lost my income, what items or services or things I pay for would I miss so much that my quality of life would be severely diminished? Or if you don't have anything like that, what are the items that have helped you develop good habits or things that you use regularly in order to be your best self? This is not a joke, and it's not meant to be taken lightly. For instance, my allergy medications. I won't die without those, but I will be miserable. Another thing that makes my life better and keeps my stress down is my Mid-Journey subscription. And you will take my Rancho Gordo Bean Club membership from my cold dead hands. Maybe for you, it's a gym membership or getting a spa service regularly. Go ahead, pay for that gym for the whole year. And your spa, enough gift certificates or vouchers or however they do it to keep you going for a year. If you plan carefully before the bad news happens, you may find that there are quite a few things you don't have to give up, things that keep you feeling like you, things that can help you not start making decisions out of desperation. After you've done these steps and figured out how much money you bring in and where it actually and truthfully goes every month, then you can make the choices that put you in a good position no matter what news comes your way. And you'll be better placed to decide for yourself what comes next. You may figure out that where you are and what you've been doing isn't what you want. You may find room, not just in your budget, but in your mind to start a whole new life. I'm sure some of y'all are rolling your eyes right now. That's okay. But think about it. It's the first morning of you not bringing in an income. You're in your kitchen and you're thinking, how am I going to eat long term? What am I going to eat? And you do that very human thing where you say, well, I deserve X, Y, and Z because this is a hard time. And you go to a drive through or you sit behind the QT gas station and you eat taquitos and you ponder whether or not you might actually deserve this bad thing that has happened. My friends, that's desperation talking, and we aren't going to do that. Instead, we're going to open our abundant pantry and make food. And then we're going to take our allergy medicine because we aren't going to run out of that for at least a year. And then we're going to get our nails done because we have a gift certificate for that. It's already paid for. All of this is already paid for because we made an investment in our future happiness. And do you know who makes good decisions? Oh, you thought you thought I was gonna say happy people. Yeah, I don't know. But I do know who makes bad decisions, and that's desperate people. I know because I've been one more than once. The bottom line is when you're faced with devastating news, good decision making is key, and bad decision making can absolutely destroy you. There is real power in being able to sit in a Zoom call or a conference room or wherever it is and hear that bad news and know that you're going to be okay. Really know that you're going to be okay because you invested in yourself. If you've listened to all of this, I want you to know that I appreciate you. You and I will probably never agree on most things, but I hope we can agree on this. Investing in ourselves is the ultimate form of private equity. The dividends may not be obvious, but they will always pay off. Thanks for listening.